Gentlemen and honored guests, may I kindly have your attention? Please join me in welcoming the honored members of the dais for the 232nd anniversary dinner of the Society of St. Patrick in the city of New York. Please welcome Jay Sherwood, President, the New England Society in the city of New York. Mark Codd, former President of the Society. Ambrose M. Richardson III, President, Sons of the Revolution in the state of New York. Brian Murphy, former President of the Society. David E. Morgan, President, St. David's Society of the State of New York. Robert J. Riley, former President of the Society. Timothy G. Reynolds, former President of the Society. Raymond W. Kelly, honorary member of the Society. The Honorable Barbara Jones, Ambassador, Consul General of Ireland. Alfred E. Smith IV, former President of the Society. The Honorable Joseph Crowley, United States Representative. Barbara Atkins, honored guest of the Society. The Reverend Joseph M. McShane, S.J., President, Fordham University. The Honorable William J. Bratton, Commissioner, New York City Police Department. William J. Monroe, Secretary to the New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo. Dr. Brendan O'Donnell, President, Manhattan College. John H. Fitzsimons, former President of the Society. Thomas D. Halkett, President, St. Andrew's Society of the State of New York. Thomas M. O'Brien, former President of the Society. Wesley M. Oler IV, President, First New York Continental Chapter, Sons of the American Revolution. Reverend Dr. Thomas F. Pike, Governor, Society of Mayflower Descendants. John C. Walton, former President of the Society. Maureen Scannell Bateman, President, American Irish Historical Society. The Honorable Charles E. Schumer, the Senior United States Senator from New York. The Honorable David Donahue, Permanent Ambassador of Ireland to the United Nations.
Thank you.
Heather Mitchell, honored guest of the Society. The Honorable George J. Mitchell. No, you're good. Yep. The Honorable Michael R. Bloomberg. His Eminence, Timothy Cardinal Dolan, Archbishop of New York. And Matthew T. McLaughlin, President of the Society.
Gentlemen, it is my privilege to welcome you to the 232nd anniversary dinner of the Society of the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick in the city of New York. If you are not already standing, please rise. I invite our members and guests to join with the Glee Club in the singing of the Hail of the Friendly Sons. Kevin Foy, take it away. Gentlemen, please remain standing. We will begin our evening with an invocation by Archbishop Timothy Cardinal Dolan. It is my honor to welcome Cardinal Dolan to the lectern.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Matthew.
Take it away. Take it away, Your Reverence.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, let us pray. Your benediction, please, dear God and Father of us all, upon this lively assembly of the friendly sons of St. Patrick in the city of New York. We claim to be friendly, so we ask the gift this evening of friendship, that this evening may be memorable for its unity, its charity, and its sense of fraternity. We boast of being sons, so let our gathering be one of loyalty and piety, grateful, reverent memories of our families, our dads and moms, our grandparents who embraced America while never, ever forgetting Ireland. We are sons of St. Patrick, so we cherish in our souls the faith he brought, in our hearts the religion and church we love as a Holy Mother, a Savior we confess as our Lord, a Trinity tattooed on our chest. We identify as New Yorkers, proud of a city which welcomed our own and brings together men and women from every background, race, culture, and language in a country we love, as did our fathers love Ireland. Your hand upon Matthew McLaughlin, our president, and the leaders of this venerable society, upon Senator Mitchell and Mayor Bloomberg, our distinguished speakers and honorees this evening, upon our beloved families, our memories and our dreams. We admit our prayers are weak on our own, but when joined to those of our Blessed Lady, the Queen of Ireland, and of glorious St. Patrick and Jesus himself, your Son, they are powerful indeed. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen.
Thank you, Your Eminence. Gentlemen, please be seated. Welcome to the greatest bachelor party in the world for a saint. Gentlemen, if I could hang on to your attention for a few more minutes, please, before we get to dinner. Gentlemen, can I have your attention, please? Shh. You know, this society is 232 years old, gentlemen, and God bless it, it still does not act its age. This is a particularly significant time to be the president of the Friendly Sons because of a major anniversary that we recognize this evening. Gentlemen, can I have your attention, please? Tonight is the 100th anniversary of perhaps the most significant event in Irish history. In 1916, 100 years ago, nearly to the day, Irish patriots in Dublin stormed the General Post Office and led to the revolution that eventually led to the birth of the Irish Free State. It is a special night for members of our clan, and there will be more on this topic to follow. But, gentlemen, there is another anniversary very deeply significant to me personally tonight. 15 years ago tonight, my father, Joseph M. McLaughlin, addressed this room for the very last time, delivering a speech marked by erudition and Celtic wit. He went home 2 years ago, but we know that he is here tonight. He addressed us 3 times, and it has been said that he is one of the best speakers we've ever had. As I fell in line to be president of the society, I knew this night would come. Several years ago, I asked my father whether he had any advice to share with his son. He gave me a quizzical look, and he said, "Matt, do you know about the 3 most difficult tasks in life?" I looked back at him blankly, and I said, "No, what?" My father smiled, and he said that the 3 most difficult things in life are 1, trying to climb a fence that is leaning toward you, 2, trying to kiss a girl who's leaning away from you, and 3, trying to speak to an audience when you do not know which way it leans. My job, therefore, tonight is easy. I know which way this room leans. It leans home. It leans to the old country. It leans to Ireland. We are privileged to have with us tonight a very impressive dignitary from Ireland. We have a diplomat who hails from County Wexford, and she brings to us greetings from the Republic of Ireland. Gentlemen, please give a hearty New York welcome to the Consul General for Ireland, Miss Barbara Jones.
Your Eminence, President McLaughlin, ladies and gentlemen on the dais, gentlemen, it is a great honour and a privilege to have been invited by the Society to make brief remarks, so I will be brief. I have a very, very important message to you today, which is that the Irish word for parade is Mór Shiúil. Mór Shiúil means a big walk. And today in New York, there was a very, very big walk by Friends of Ireland and people who are proud of their faith and love of Ireland down up Fifth Avenue. And I was so proud to be part of that. We started our day in the cathedral, in St. Patrick's Cathedral, with a beautiful service and a very memorable homily by Monsignor Quinn. And in his homily, Monsignor Quinn offered the proposition of love and joy. And I think, and he spoke about the importance of memory. And as I walked today through the streets of New York, it seemed to me that the parade in New York and the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick bring together on this occasion a moment for us to remember who we are and where we have come from. Seamus Heaney, in his famous essay about Wordsworth, said, "How can a man know who he is if he doesn't know where he comes from?" And every year in Irish America and in the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick, you have provided space for Irish people, Catholic people, Protestant people, people of all faiths and none, to gather and to remember who we are. I thank you for that. I thank you for making sure that identity has been central and love of Ireland and connection with faith in Ireland remains central to your purpose. I really, really praise your philanthropy. I see its effects all over this state, and I commend you particularly for your scholarship scheme. But we are on a long, long march as a society in Irish America and in Ireland, and changes are coming. This year we remember a great moment of change in Ireland, a moment where the Ireland displayed their classical spirit, the gift of imagination, a group of men and women who imagined a different future, an act of defiance in an asymmetrical world of empire and dominion. They reimagined the future of Ireland. And as they reimagined that future, they proclaimed an Irish Republic, which imagined an Ireland of joy and happiness, equality, and universal suffrage for men and women. I'm standing now, to my left is the Irish tricolour. The Irish Republic was proclaimed under the tricolour at the General Post Office, as President McLaughlin has recalled. This flag is a flag of peace. This flag imagines a republic, an Ireland, in which the green Catholic nationalist tradition will live side by side with the orange tradition. And thanks to your leadership here in Irish America, and specifically the leadership of the Friendly Sons, Senator George Mitchell, and elected officials at state and national level, we now have peace in Ireland and a great trajectory to a great future of reconciliation. So as we look to the next 100 years of the Friendly Sons, the next 100 years of Ireland, the next 100 years of the St. Patrick's Day Parade and the faith we share, I feel great confidence that with the intercession and the wisdom of the leadership of the Friendly Sons, we will continue to display the Irish spirit, our sense of fair play, and a commitment to justice for the most vulnerable in our society. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody, and here's to the next 100 years.
Well done, Barbara. Thank you. Gentlemen, as you begin your dinners and as you take a look at your program, you would start to think that this evening is entirely scripted out. Well, not so, not so. We may be old at the Friendly Sons, but we are not inflexible. To keep things exciting, gentlemen, we have a mystery guest here tonight. You will not see his name in the program, but I suspect that you will recognize him. Yes, yes, as proof that every politician is Irish on March 17th, please allow me to welcome to the lectern Senator Chuck Schumer for a few St. Patrick's Day remarks. Senator Schumer. Thank you. Tell them about dinner.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here. I want to congratulate the honorees. Certainly George Mitchell, who was a great, great senator and leader. God willing, I become leader. I hope, George, I can do 1/10 the job that you have done. Congratulations. To our great mayor, Michael Bloomberg, who did an amazing job. Our city is still doing well because of the great job that he has done. And to Matthew McLaughlin, who does a great job running this society, and of course to my dear friend and His Eminence, our Cardinal. It is great to be here. I'll be very brief. You know, it is a great day for all of New York. And a few years ago, as some of you may remember, I was chosen the Hibernian's Man of the Year. When I got the award, I said this. I said two things. First, I said, God bless America. Only in America could the Hibernian's Man of the Year be Chuck Schumer. And then I said the following. I got the award because of my work on Irish immigration. And I was asked, why do you work so hard for Irish immigration? And I said the following. I said, it is not because when I first ran for the New York State Assembly at age 23, it was the Irish people who took me into their hearts, and the great Willie Joe Cunningham of County Donegal knocked on every door with me in Marine Park and Gerritsen Beach and the Rockaways. That's not the reason, although that is true. It is not because my great staff is largely Irish. I've been led since I got into the Senate by Martin Brennan, the son of the great police chief Patrick Brennan, who passed from us, who was a Mayo man, or Mike Lynch in Washington, or my top people who are named Murphy and Kelly and Byrne and Fallon. It's not for that reason, even though that is true. It is not even because my sister's name is Fran Schumer McNulty, and I have a whole lot of nieces and nephews, little McNultys, running around our table, although that is true. Why did I work so hard for the Irish? For this reason. Why did I work so hard to get the Irish here to America? Because I love America, and the more Irish there are in America, the better America is. So thank you, God bless you, and enjoy your dinner, ladies and gentlemen.
Well done. Thank you. Well done. Gentlemen, please take your seats, those of you who are standing. It is my singular honor to call to order the 232nd anniversary dinner of the Society of the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick in the city of New York. This society, a charitable organization, has existed continuously since 1784. In its 232 years of existence, it has been addressed by presidents, statesmen, prelates, priests, soldiers, and scholars. Somewhere in there, I understand, there have also been a few Tammany chiefs. Apart from the enormous honor of leading us this evening through our traditional toasts, addressing this society is a very serious undertaking, one which I have heard has made stouter hearts than mine quail. Standing here tonight, I am reminded of what Muldoon said when he fell into the vat of Guinness. May my mouth prove equal to the occasion. Expressing her grief at Muldoon's wake, his wife remarked to a neighbor, at least he didn't suffer. He drowned quickly. The mourning neighbor responded, oh, no, not at all. He had time to get out and go to the bathroom, twice. Before we commence our formal program and hear our evening speakers, there are some thanks to deliver. This grand dinner does not fall together simply because the calendar tells us that another St. Patrick's Day has arrived. Our dinner results from the tireless efforts of the officers, the Board of Stewards, led by the indomitable Lawrence Cook, and the past presidents of the Society. Gentlemen, we also give our sincere thanks to our office manager, Jackie McCarthy, For years now, Jackie has made her job seem easy, so God bless Jackie. As always, due thanks must be given to the saintly Sheridan staff who warm our bodies with delightful meal and uplift our spirits with Gaelic refreshments. And let's have a hearty round of applause for the Glee Club, who regaled us with song during our dinner. May it please the esteemed ladies and gentlemen of the dais, leaders of our sister societies, former presidents, friendly sons, and members with a little too much scotch in your blood. The time has come, ladies and gentlemen, for me to lead you through our traditional toasts. Gentlemen, please charge your glasses. Gentlemen, please stand. Our first toast to the President of the United States. Hear, hear. Thank you. Please be seated. But, don't get too comfortable. This is a little bit like a Catholic Mass. You're going to be up and down a few times, gentlemen. I mentioned at the outset of this evening what an extraordinary privilege it is to serve as the president of the Society on the 100th anniversary of the Easter Rising. On April 24, 1916, 800 years of strife exploded in a rebellion in Dublin. Before the English occupation began, for centuries, the Irish, a free people, a strong and proud people, lived by themselves before a foreign aggressor trampled their ancient liberties. From the 12th century to 1916, virtually every generation hurled its naked chest against the might of England, only to sink down into defeat and new despair under the sheer weight of numbers and imperial resources. Unless we have this perspective on Irish history, gentlemen, we will never understand the Irish-American character. We were an occupied land, but we were never, never a conquered nation. The Irish had never ceased to look upon England as an invader. The Irish never ceased to regard English rule as slavery. After 8 centuries of Irish defeat, the English naturally expected submission. They were appalled by our stubbornness, and they wrote it off as stupidity. Continuous rebellion seemed insanity to them. Many died, and many left. But not all of the brave left, gentlemen. Staying behind were many full-blooded, passionate Irishmen with the love of the land, hatred of oppression, and a fierce determination that Ireland would stand free of her chains. Rage grew and grew, and events marched to that tragic Easter Monday of 1916 when a handful of Dublin men and women pitted themselves against the might of England in one of those futile uprisings that are at once the glory and despair of Ireland. With few exceptions, every leader in the Easter Rising offered his life on the altar of Irish freedom with no larger hope than that his death might call to the world's attention the struggle for Irish liberty. Gentlemen, on this remarkable anniversary night, I conclude my brief remarks with a question. What in world history was ever more noble than the gesture of a few young men who challenged England when she had 1 million men in arms? What was more terribly beautiful than their deaths? Tonight, gentlemen, we remember the martyrs of 1916. As we move to our second toast of the evening, let us further remember the day we celebrate. As always, let us honor our patron saint, Patrick, who brought the light of faith to the Emerald Isle in 432. He died some 30 years later on March 17th. Isn't it just like the Irish to still be waking him more than 1,500 years later? Let us, on this special night, also remember all of the men and women who gave their lives to Ireland so she might stand free as an independent republic, a nation once again, the Republic of Ireland. Gentlemen, please charge your glasses. Gentlemen, please rise. It is time for our second toast of the evening. To the day we celebrate. Please be seated again. To respond to the toast, to the day we celebrate, our first speaker is a man whose words and deeds are forever woven into the fabric of Irish history. Long before George J. Mitchell became a piece of Irish history, he was already an American hero. Like so many of us here tonight, gentlemen, he is the product of immigrants. His mother, Mary, was born in Lebanon and emigrated to Maine in 1920. His father, an adopted boy of ethnic Irish descent, was also raised by Lebanese immigrants. Because of his Lebanese background, George Mitchell is often celebrated as a prominent Arab American. Tonight is one of those warm and whimsical nights that brings out the Irish in everyone. And tonight, gentlemen, we reclaim George Mitchell as an Irish American. Senator, I know that you still have politics in your blood, and 1,400 men just voted you full-on Irish. Welcome home. Thank you. A paradigm of the American success story, George Mitchell was raised in rural Maine. He attended Bowdoin College, followed by Georgetown Law School. Gentlemen, excuse me. That just means he did not get into Fordham Law. All of you Eagles and Hoyas out there are a little slow on the uptake. You're in Ram country now, gentlemen. The senator just advised me quietly as a footnote that he has lectured at Fordham, so we're in good shape. After stints in private practice, Senator Mitchell became the U.S. Attorney for Maine, a federal judge, and then the Senator from Maine. In 1989, he became the Senate Majority Leader, a position he held until his retirement in 1995. It has been said of this great statesman, there is not a man, woman, or child in the Capitol who does not trust George Mitchell. A figure of towering stature, Mitchell enjoyed uncommon bipartisan respect during his tenure. Bipartisan respect. Does anyone remember those days? For most of the time that George Mitchell was distinguishing himself in this country, Northern Ireland was awash in violence. The 6 counties in Ulster had exploded in sectarian hatred. Both sides ignored their humanity and kept the region bathed in bombs, bullets, and blood. Tonight, with heavy hearts, we remember the nightmare darkly referred to as the Troubles. Every effort at a solution failed. Every effort at a ceasefire failed. Enter George Mitchell. In 1995, President Clinton, whose mother, by the way, was a Cassidy from the North, appointed Senator Mitchell as special envoy for Northern Ireland. After years of listening and negotiating, Senator Mitchell's steady, principled demeanor led, finally, to the signing of the Good Friday Agreement in 1998. After decades of gruesome hostility, the guns fell silent. For his involvement in the peace process, Senator Mitchell was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1999. Of course, this medal was conferred on the most important day of the year, March 17th. You may not know it, gentlemen, but he's also a tremendous athlete. In fact, for some light exercise today, George Mitchell marched several miles up Fifth Avenue at the very front of our parade. Yes, gentlemen, we have in our presence tonight the Grand Marshal of the New York City St. Patrick's Day Parade. Gentlemen, blessed are the peacemakers. Proudly, I give you Senator George J. Mitchell. Welcome, Senator.
That's really wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, Matthew, for that very generous introduction. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your warm reception. It is truly for me a great honor to be part of this event and to have served as the Grand Marshal of the St. Patrick's Day Parade today. I'm especially pleased to be here on the dais with many distinguished friends and guests, our great and distinguished former Mayor Mike Bloomberg, Congressman Joe Crowley, Consul General Barbara Jones, and so many others here at the head table. Now, I speak often, and so for me, the highlight of the program is the introduction. And I want to say, Matthew, you carried out very well. Thank you. It's always pleasant, of course, to hear nice things said about you. The danger is, if you hear it often enough, you may begin to believe it. So I like to begin with a story about introductions and when I was brought back down to earth. I chaired 3 separate sets of negotiations in Northern Ireland over a period of 5 years. When I returned to the United States, I wrote a book about my experience, and when it was published, I traveled around the country attending events in connection with the book. I received many invitations, and in the process, I learned that in the United States, there are more Irish American organizations than there are Irish Americans. and every one of them invited me to come to their event. Of course, I couldn't go to them all, but I went to many, and as I traveled the country, they developed among these Irish American groups an informal competition as to who could give the longest, most fantastic, often ridiculous introductions of me. The proper response, of course, would have been to exhibit some humility, to urge them to keep it short. I had an improper reaction. I loved it. I encouraged them. I scolded them when they left something out. In Chicago, one guy read a list 35 minutes long of every event in my life, many of which I'd not previously been aware of. And when he finished, I scolded him because he left out the fact that I received the Science Award my junior year in high school in a small town in Maine. But when I got to the last stop, the Stamford, Connecticut Irish American Society, there's Stamford, I was overly impressed with myself. I had a hard time squeezing my head through the front door. But when I finally got inside, the first person I encountered was an elderly woman who rushed up to me very excited, spent several minutes telling me what a great man I am. She concluded by saying, I don't live anywhere near here. I drove 3 hours across the whole state of Connecticut come here to ask you, please, would you sign my poster? She handed me a poster with a photograph on and a pen. I looked at it, and I said, I'd be very happy to sign your poster, but before I do, I think there's something I should tell you. She asked what it was. I said, I'm not Henry Kissinger. She said, you're not? Well, who are you anyway? And when I told her, she said, why, that's just terrible. She said, I drove 3 hours to meet a great man named Kissinger, and all I've got is a nobody like you. I said, well, I'm sorry you feel so bad. I wish there's some way I could make you feel better. And after a moment, she said, well, there is. When I asked her what it was, she leaned forward. I leaned forward. Our foreheads were nearly touching, and she said in a conspiratorial whisper, nobody will ever know the difference. She said, would you mind signing Henry Kissinger's name to my poster? So I did. And it's hanging today on a living room wall in Eastern Connecticut, a daily reminder to me to take pleasure in, but don't take too seriously these wonderful introductions as the one Matthew gave me. Now, here's the best part of the story. About 2 years ago, Kissinger and I appeared jointly at a business conference here in Manhattan. It was at a private club, 10 stories up. There was a moderator and the two of us on the dais. And I thought it'd be a good occasion to tell the story, which I did. The crowd liked it. Henry appeared to enjoy it. And then we proceeded to have an hour discussion of China, the Middle East, and so forth. When we finished, we found ourselves on the elevator going down together. And Henry said to me in his serious way and deep voice, he said, you know, I've been with you often. I've heard you speak so many times, particularly when you were Senate Majority Leader. He said, I've never heard you ever give a better talk than you gave tonight. And I said, really? I said, well, that's so flattering coming from someone like you. Was it my answer on China or the description of the Middle East? No, he said, it was that story you told in the beginning. He said, that's really great. You should tell that all over America. And I have, and now the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick goes on my list that I give him regularly of where I'm promoting him. I entered the Senate under unusual circumstances. I was serving as a federal judge in my home state of Maine when a vacancy occurred in the Senate. The governor of Maine at the time, a great Irish American named Joe Brennan, announced on a Wednesday that because the Senate was in session, he was going to act promptly, and he scheduled a press conference at the state capitol for the following Monday noon, when he said he would announce his choice to complete the unexpired term of Senator Muskie. That Sunday night, I, like everyone else in Maine, went to bed early. We go to bed early in Maine. Wondering what the governor was going to do the next day. There'd been a lot of press speculation. My name was not in the speculation because I'd only been appointed a federal judge the year before. About 11 o'clock at night, the phone rang. It was the governor calling. He said, I'd like you to come to the state capitol tomorrow noon so that I can announce that I'm going to appoint you to the Senate. I said, Governor, this is a surprise. This is a really big decision. I need time. I've got to talk to my family. I've got to think about this. He said, okay, I'll give you 1 hour. I protested. He insisted. So I hung up the phone. I called my 3 older brothers. I grew up in a small town in Maine. My 3 older brothers were very famous athletes, well known not just in our state but in New England. And I came along and I was not as good as my brothers. In fact, I was not as good as anybody else's brother. And very early in life in our little town, I became known as Johnny Mitchell's kid brother, the one who isn't any good. As you might expect, I developed an inferiority complex and a highly competitive attitude toward my brothers. So when I called them up, 3 of them after hearing from the governor, ostensibly to seek their advice, I confess that there was a note of triumphalism in my voice. Guys, I said, the governor wants to appoint me to the United States Senate. What do you think about that? My brother Johnny responded immediately. He said, listen, everybody knows you're a born loser. He said, you couldn't possibly win a statewide election. He said, in fact, we can't understand how you got to be a federal judge. That's a lifetime appointment. He said, you better stay where you are. My older brother, who thinks he's an intellectual, likes to use the Socratic method, so he said, let me ask you a series of questions. First, he said, aren't the people of Maine entitled to have a qualified person to serving them in the Senate? And second, he said, isn't it obvious that you're not among them? I hung up the phone, I called the governor, I said, Governor, I don't need a full hour. I've already received all the reassurance I need of my ability to perform this job. So, the next day at noon, the governor announced my appointment. I got on a plane, I flew down to Washington. The swearing-in was scheduled for the Tuesday morning. I landed at the airport in Washington, and it's about 5 o'clock. I didn't have anything to do that night, so when I got in a taxi, on a whim, I said, take me up to the Capitol, to the Senate side. I thought I'd go in, find the Senate Majority Leader, discuss the plans for my swearing-in the next day. I knew it would be a major event. I wasn't sure whether all three networks would cover it live, but I knew that all the major outlets in the country wanted to be there. So I walked in, I was taken into the Senate. The Senate was in session debating a bill. The Majority Leader had a lot of issues on his mind, and he vaguely recognized me. I had no idea of knowing that within just a few years I would be in his position with a lot of issues on my mind and vaguely recognizing others. But when I met him, he said, we'll swear you in right now. They were debating a bill. I said, no, the swearing in's tomorrow. Listen, Sonny, he said, we're busy around here. When I say you're going to be sworn in now, you're going to be sworn in now. So he interrupted the debate, swore me in. It took less than 10 seconds. One of the most disillusioning moments of my life. Nobody noticed. There were several senators standing nearby talking. They had no idea what was happening. And then the debate resumed, and almost immediately a vote occurred. For those of you interested in political trivia, I hold the all-time record in American history for the shortest time between entering the Senate and casting a vote. 2 minutes. The first of many informed judgments I made in your behalf and in behalf of other Americans. And so, now the Senate resumed the debate. And I stood there, I didn't know what to do. Now I was a senator, and pretty soon a young guy walked up to me, very angry, introduced himself as my administrative assistant. I'd never met him, didn't know who he was. He'd served that role for my predecessor, now he was mine. He berated me for permitting myself to be sworn in, thereby disrupting the proceedings the next day. And then he read off a long list of instructions for me that day, and he concluded by saying, we have a great invitation for you tonight. He said, we just got a call. There are 3,000 certified public accountants meeting in a convention here in Washington, and they just called and asked if you would come down and give the keynote address at their convention tonight. I said, you know, this is amazing. I said, I know a lot of accountants. Every one of them is the smartest guy you'll ever know, but how could these guys be so smart to hold this beautiful, important keynote speech open for me when until just yesterday I didn't even know myself I'd be here? He said, oh, it's nothing like that. They've had 4 last-minute cancellations. They said they saw you being sworn in on TV and they figured you may be the only member of Congress who doesn't have anything to do tonight. So I said, well, what do they want me to talk about? He said, the tax code. I said, you want me, who knows very little about the tax code, to get down and tell 3,000 CPAs what's in the tax code? And this young guy looked at me, and with sarcasm and disgust, he said, listen, you're now a United States Senator. You will regularly be called upon to speak on subjects that you know nothing about. He said, so you want to start to be a good senator? He said, you get down there and tell those 3,000 CPAs what's in the tax code. So I did, and here I am to tell 1,500 Irishmen what's going on in Ireland tonight. Now I'll tell one more story, and then I'll say a few serious words. The next day in the Senate, there was a filibuster. They weren't as frequent then as now, so the Majority Leader said to me, won't you come over 6 o'clock tonight, he said, and just see how these things work. So 6 o'clock that evening, I went over to the Senate, took my seat way in the back, number 100. I was the only guy there. Pretty soon, another guy walks in, gains recognition, begins to speak, and he begins by saying, "I'd like to say a few words." And he spoke for 6 hours. Since I was the only other person there, he spoke to me for 6 hours. It didn't make much sense, and I wondered whether I really was serving the national interest, but I didn't dare leave because I thought I might violate some unwritten rule. After 6 hours, the bells ring, and many of you may have been in the Capitol to see when votes occurred. They had a procedural vote just to keep the process going. The other senators rushed in. 98 of them cast their votes. They all left, including the guy who'd been talking. I stood there not knowing what else to do. Another guy came in. He spoke to me for 6 hours. This went on all night. Finally, early morning, I was exhausted. I walked over to the entrance, and there was a clerk standing there. I said, "Excuse me, I'm new here." He said, "Senator, that's obvious to everyone." I said, "I'm sitting out here listening to these guys, learning nothing, and I'm wondering, where are all these other senators? What are they doing?" He said, "Come with me, I'll show you." He took me around behind the Senate chamber into a room which was filled with narrow canvas folding cots of the type you see in emergency shelters, and there, lying there in their clothes, snoring away, a bunch of old white guys, the members of the United States Senate. So I said, "My God, is this what I've come to?" My second disillusioning moment within 24 hours. There were no aisles. There was one empty cot in the middle. He said, "You better grab that cot." I had to climb over others to get there. The first person I encountered, Ted Kennedy. Ted, as you know, was not a slight fellow. And so I felt like I was climbing Mount Everest, worried about disturbing him, but I used all the athletic skill that my brothers insist I don't have. I made it over Ted without disturbing him. The next guy on the next cot, lying there on his back, snoring away, Senator Jesse Helms of North Carolina. Now, I'd only been there one day, but I was well aware of Senator Helms' reputation as a stalwart defender of heterosexual rights. And I was really worried. If I lost my balance and fell on top of him, I could be impeached from the Senate the second day I was there. So I was very careful I get over him. I laid down on this cot, and I sank into despair. I thought to myself, 2 days ago I was a distinguished person. I was a federal judge. I had a robe. Now here I was lying there with a bunch of guys snoring away. And I wallowed in self-despair. And then I rolled over on this cot, and literally 6 inches away, I looked into the face of Senator John Warner of Virginia. Now, at that time, he was married to Elizabeth Taylor. So I looked at him and I thought, who am I to feel sorry for myself? I said, here's a guy who could be home, sleeping with Elizabeth Taylor, and he's spending the night with me. And it reminded me of something every one of you know, but you tend to forget. No matter how bad off you think you got it, there's always some guys got it a lot worse. And so, well, let me say a few serious words about today and this evening. I view St. Patrick's Day and events like this as an opportunity to celebrate our pride in our Irish heritage and our gratitude for our good fortune to be Americans. We are the most fortunate people ever to have lived, to be citizens of a society which is, despite our serious imperfections, remains the most free, the most open, the most just society in all of human history, the United States of America. I believe in the American dream because I have lived it. I am here as the product of a series of improbable events that brought a young teenage girl who could not read, write, or speak English to America, a young Christian girl from Lebanon who sought the freedom and opportunity of the United States. She came here on one of the last ships that came through Ellis Island, and she ended up in a small town in Maine where she entered textile mills and worked the night shift for 50 years. And there she met my father. His parents had been born in Ireland, and they were part of the great human tide, one of the largest migrations in all of human history, which left that small island, crossed the Atlantic in search of freedom and opportunity in the New World. His parents did not succeed, as many, many who came across did not succeed. My father never knew his parents. The mother died, the father couldn't care for the children, and he and his siblings were raised in a Catholic orphanage in Boston. After several years there, he was adopted by an elderly, childless couple from Maine, and there he grew up. He left school after the 3rd grade and spent a long, hard life as a laborer on the edge of insecurity and ended up as a janitor at a local school. My parents were very poor, but in their minds, they died wealthy because each of their children got the education they could not get and had the opportunity offered by this great and free society. And either son was able to go on to become the majority leader of the United States Senate. The greatest and most amazing thing about our country is that on every block in New York and in every town all across this country, there are men and women whose lives have paralleled my own. They came for freedom and opportunity, and most of them found it here. We have great challenges in this country, but there is no challenge that we cannot overcome if we are able to draw upon the talents of every member of society, if we are able to meet the aspiration of opportunity, equal opportunity for all. And we have to keep in mind that we are all in this together. Every person in this room leads a life of relative ease and comfort, insulated from the harsh winds of life by the education, by the efforts of our parents, by the web of resources and friendships we've knitted over a lifetime. And we should be grateful for that. And we should also remember that 100 years ago, it was the Irish who were reviled, the Irish who were demeaned, the Irish who were denied opportunity here in New York City and all across this country of ours. And if there's one thing I ask you to remember from my remarks tonight, it is what I am about to say, words that I was told by my father. My father was a quiet man. He had a very, very hard life. He spoke never about his upbringing and spoke little otherwise. But when I left home to go to college, leaving for the first time, my parents never owned a car. We literally never went anywhere. He took me and sat me down at the kitchen table. My mother was baking bread at the time. And he said to me, I was 16, insecure, had no direction or purpose in life. My father said to me, You're a smart young boy. I know you're going to do well. But I want you now to look at your mother. Look at me. And remember this. Wherever you go, whatever you do, don't you ever forget where you came from. And I never have. And I ask each of you, don't you ever forget where you came from. Thank you all very much for having me here this evening.
I'm crying here. You're not supposed to make the lead speaker tear up. Thank you, Senator Mitchell, for those beautiful, poignant remarks. The Friendly Sons will long remember the talk about the great human tide that poured from Ireland. And gentlemen, look at us now. Look where we are now. But the senator's right. Our history is extremely important and something we cherish tonight. Hunger, poverty, oppression. These are the sad circumstances of our history as the Irish. Many could not bear the circumstances. As the senator pointed out, many emigrated. Those emigrants enriched almost every civilized society on the globe. 1 million Irish, deported by their despair, gave to other lands the genius that the crown despised and ignored. The sheer size of the immigration was staggering. Ireland has still not recovered from that tidal wave loss of humanity. Some years ago, Lewis Briscoe, the popular Lord Mayor of Dublin, was called upon to welcome a visiting foreign dignitary. Your Excellency, declared Mayor Briscoe with a big grin, we welcome you to Ireland in the name of our 28 million inhabitants, 23 million of whom are in the United States. Tonight, gentlemen, I proudly stand before a room of transplants and descendants of transplants, a room of men and women who traced their roots to the land from which we were driven, and yet we somehow cannot forget. It is beyond debate that the greatest beneficiary of the Irish diaspora is the United States of America. My father, your fathers, our grandparents, those immigrants made this the greatest country in the history of the earth. Gentlemen, this brings us to our final toast. Please charge your glasses. And please be upstanding. To our great country, the United States of America. And while we are all standing, please join our Glee Club in a rousing rendition of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Gentlemen, please be seated. next speaker, charged with responding to the toast to the United States of America, is, like many of us in this room, a second-generation American. Born in Boston and raised in Medford, Massachusetts, he is the grandson of Russian immigrants. Like our grandparents, his grandparents dreamed of a better future for their children. And oh boy, the Bloombergs got it. Michael R. Bloomberg attended Johns Hopkins and Harvard Business School. For a decade or two after that, he was mildly successful in the business world. Memorably, in 2001, Mike Bloomberg found this city cast down flat on the canvas. Everyone here remembers those dark days when our beautiful Twin Towers became shadows in our memory. Mike Bloomberg became mayor in a city that looked like it was down for the count. He picked us up from the ground, and then he let us stand tall again. He returned to New York the luster and promise as the greatest city on the planet. On top of that, he did the impossible. Bloomberg governed New York City. He got us back on firm financial footing. He turned around a broken school system. He improved the environment. He improved our health. He kept crime low. Gentlemen, can you just imagine what Bloomberg could do for the United States of America? Of course, he didn't do it alone. There were other great mayors of our time. It has been said that Ed Koch cracked the eggs, Giuliani mixed the ingredients, but by God, gentlemen, it was Bloomberg who made the omelet. Gentlemen, I give you one of the greatest public servants we have yet seen, the 108th mayor of New York City, Michael R. Bloomberg.
Thank you. Thank you. Please be seated. Matt, thank you for those kind words, and happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. You know, when Matt invited me to speak tonight, he didn't tell me I'd be following the guy who brought peace to Northern Ireland. But he did promise me I'd get a better reception here than Jerry Adams got at the White House. Matt, I guess it won't help me with this crowd to mention that last year I was made an honorary knight of the British Empire by the Queen of England. But, wait a second, just let me remind you all that Cardinal Dolan's mother was born with the very English name Radcliffe. So we're all friends here. Let me begin by thanking His Eminence Cardinal Timothy Dolan for all that he does for our great city. The Cardinal, yes, he does deserve a round of applause. The Cardinal woke up today and he wasn't feeling very well, but he said under any circumstances he wanted to come here and give the invocation, and he did, and then we urged him to go home and to rest, and I think we all know how much the Cardinal loves this city and loves this organization. And with the name of Timothy Michael Dolan, there's just no question about his ethnicity. Earlier, though, before he left, I did ask the Cardinal who he thought would win tomorrow night's basketball game between the Michigan Wolverines and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. He said, I don't know, but there will be a Lenten dispensation for eating Wolverine tomorrow. Now, you may not realize this, but the New York Archdiocese has a streak of Irish archbishops that go back to the year 1842. The Cardinal told me this streak is evidence of papal infallibility. Now, I won't ask the Cardinal whether Pope Francis's opinion of Donald Trump is also evidence of papal infallibility. But you can't boo the Pope, so we're going to have to enjoy what he said. Let me just tell you that I did ask Joe McShane, the president of Fordham, about the Pope's suggestion that Trump is not a Christian. And he said to me, I can't speak of this particular case, but we Jesuits have a long history of identifying heretics. By the way, I do hope that this crowd will be a little calmer than the crowds at some of the Trump rallies. But if a protester does get out of hand tonight, go ahead and tackle him. Matt said he'd cover all of their legal bills. For those of you that don't know Matt, he is a successful litigator, and he was telling me earlier tonight that lawyers are a lot like priests. They hear confessions and help you with appeals to higher authority. The only difference is you don't have to wait until you die to find out if you got a good lawyer. Seriously, it's an honor to address this distinguished group for the second time. The first time was back in 2002, just 2 months after I was sworn in as mayor. And back then, I was just beginning to discover the similarities between the Irish and the Jews. Since then, I've learned how right Brendan Behan was when he said, other people have nationalities. The Irish and Jews have a psychosis. After 12 years of having the great honor of serving as your mayor and marching in something like 237 St. Patrick's Day parades in all 5 boroughs, and going to Mass at least as often as many Irish Catholics do, I think I have learned my place as an honorary friendly son of St. Patrick. Now, I do know that this group has taken some criticism because the membership is all male. But tonight, I am here to say that the critics have it all wrong. It is not that women are excluded as members, it's that women have class. And they're also happy to get this crowd out of the house so they can enjoy some peace and quiet. Let me extend a special welcome, seriously, tonight to David Donahue, Ireland's ambassador to the UN, and Barbara Jones, Ireland's consulate general in New York. I once had the honor of welcoming the Taoiseach Edna Kenny to City Hall, and as a gift, the Taoiseach brought me an Irish boomerang. And he told me, when you throw it, it never comes back. It just sings about how it wants to. During my time as mayor, I learned that the Irish love a good song, but there is a limit. A few years ago, I was in an Irish pub in Sunnyside with Congressman Joe Crowley. It was karaoke night, and a man kept on singing Danny Boy over and over and over and over again. Finally, we couldn't take it anymore. So I went up to the man and said, Senator Schumer, please step away from the microphone. I'm sorry the senator couldn't stay long enough to hear that. Actually, I have been practicing my rendition of Danny Boy in Spanish. You would just love it. One time I was talking to an Irish reporter from Dublin, and I was being interviewed, and I tried to use some of my Spanish. I used the word luego, and the reporter asked me what it meant, so I told him the term means something later. And then I asked him if there was an equivalent Irish term for that, and he said, no, in Ireland we don't have a word to describe that degree of urgency. I did learn a lot about the Irish during my time in office, probably because I hired so many Irish New Yorkers. Ray Kelly, who is with us tonight, did an incredible job as police commissioner. Ray drove crime down to record lows across the 5 boroughs, but there was one group of hardened criminals that he and the NYPD just could not stop. And in fairness, Commissioner Bratton hasn't been able to stop them either. They're part of a notorious criminal organization that has been called many names that I can't repeat here, and so I'll simply call them by their official name, the state legislature. Where's Senator Flanagan? Where are you when I need you? Last November, when I did speak at the Al Smith dinner, I made a few jokes about Albany corruption. I was going to save some of those jokes for this dinner, but then I thought, why bother? There's bound to be fresh material by then, and sure enough, there was. Believe it or not, during my time in office, 12 years, 25 members of the Assembly and Senate from New York City were convicted of crimes, 25. But here's the good news. Only one of them was Irish. Now, I'm not sure if it's because Irish New Yorkers have become more honest or just less likely to get elected to the state legislature, or maybe it's the same thing. Anyways, thankfully, there are still some Irish New Yorkers in Albany, but in the presidential race, there has not been a single candidate with deep Irish roots. Oh, wait a second, I forgot about Martin O'Malley, just like the rest of America. Without an Irish candidate, it's no wonder the campaign has been so uninspiring. And the press coverage has been no better, of course, with the possible exception of Bloomberg News. Now, William Butler Yeats was ahead of his time when he wrote a poem about democracy and the press and what's going on now. He wrote, quote, "A statesman is an easy man who tells his lies by rote. A journalist makes up his lies and takes you by the throat. So stay at home and drink your beer and let the neighbors vote." That's what he said. I thought it was funny. You didn't either, but that's okay. Too often this year's debates seriously seem like they're following the advice of another great Irish poet, Seamus Heaney, who wrote, "Whatever you say nothing." See, that worked a little bit. A year ago, if you had told me that a pig-headed New York billionaire who puts his name on everything he touches would be a front-runner for President of the United States, I would have been shocked to find out that it wasn't me. Now, the way things are shaping up, thank you. The way things are shaping up, it looks like Donald will be facing Secretary Clinton in November. Now, I worked closely with Hillary when she was our senator, and I remember we were both breaking ground on a new downtown headquarters for Goldman Sachs one day, and Hillary said, they gotta listen to this, come on. Hillary said, quote, "I hope people don't think this means I'm too close to Wall Street." And I said to her, "Hillary, it's not like you're charging them hundreds of thousands of dollars to be here. People know you'd never do that." Meanwhile, her opponent, Bernie Sanders, is really resonating with young people. He says it's wrong to have government controlled by billionaires. But as I said to the voters back in 2001, don't knock it until you try it. The truth is, the American people deserve a more honest and serious debate, and that's why I considered running for president. And I asked a lot of people what they thought. I asked a lot of people what they thought. I even asked Hillary. And I said, "Hillary, how did you decide whether to run?" And she said, "I had a seance with Eleanor Roosevelt, and Eleanor Roosevelt told me to run." I thought, well, maybe I should have a seance with Teddy Roosevelt, since he ran for president as a third-party candidate, and he was a hero of mine. And Teddy famously said, speak softly, and carry a big stick. A big stick. I guess Donald must have heard that one wrong. Now, everyone knows it's hard to carry a big stick with small hands, but for me, I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee it. In any event, I did go to Channel TR and seek his guidance. So I went to his old haunt, Keen's Steakhouse on West 36th Street. I picked up Teddy's old clay pipe that hangs on the wall, sat down at Teddy's favorite table and closed my eyes. And then, sure enough, I heard a voice speak to me, and it said, "Sorry, mister, you can't smoke here." After that, I realized I had to speak with people who really knew how to win today's Irish New Yorkers. So I went to see Cardinal Dolan, and I asked him whether he thought I had a chance. And he told me, "It is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than it is for a short, divorced Jewish billionaire from New York City to enter the White House." Then I walked a few blocks to see our great Irish Consul General Barbara Jones. She said to me, "Mike, I believe you can win, but I also believe that Ireland will win the next World Cup." Finally, on my way home, I stopped by Central Park for a carriage ride. Now, you should know that most of the drivers in the park are Irish. Most of the drivers there are Irish, and I was a big supporter of their industry, so I got in one of the carriages and I asked the driver, "Do you think I could make it to the White House?" And the driver said, "Actually, there's another mayor we'd rather drive out of town." Then he turned around and he had a big smile on his face, and I said, "When did you start driving a carriage, Governor Cuomo?" Well, as you know, I eventually decided not to run for president, but over the last 10 days, I've been having second thoughts. Come on, wait. Over the last 10 days, I've been having second thoughts. I've still got the fire, and lots of people have asked me to reconsider. So tonight, let me finish this, and then you come up here. Tonight, I have an announcement to make. You'll be happy about this. Trust me. Give me a chance to do it. After much deliberation, after getting approval from my family, I have decided to throw my hat into the ring for president of the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick. Now, if you will look at the screens at either end of the room, you will see that my campaign is ready to shift into high gear. I've already designed a campaign poster. Hired a campaign manager. Rented office space. Convened a focus group. Selected a team of foreign policy advisors. And most importantly, I've come up with a slogan that I think will really resonate with voters. Now, my qualifications are second to none. I have a great appreciation for Irish sports and a love of classic Irish literature. If elected, my official residence will bear a striking resemblance to the White House with one important exception. Once in office, I pledged to improve the weather in Ireland and to promote peace. I even promised to consult with hardline Republicans from the North. Actually, if you look carefully, this is a photo of when Governor Palin visited me in City Hall, and as you can see, it's the day she convinced me to adopt a rule limiting the size of cups for sugary drinks. Finally, for the skeptics who don't think that a guy named Bloomberg can win the job, I'm glad to report that I've already picked up an important endorsement. The truth of the matter is, it's really, as the senator said, there's no place on earth that has stronger ties to Ireland and more respect for Irish culture than New York City. Our city's Irish roots run deep through our subways and water tunnels, through our bridges and skyscrapers, through our schools and our hospitals, and through the greatest municipal workforce any city has ever assembled, and that includes our finest and our bravest. When I spoke at this dinner 14 years ago, it was just 6 months after the attacks of 9/11. The attacks killed people of every nationality and every religion, but no community lost more than Irish America. And I've always believed that the greatest tribute we could pay to those we lost, in addition to honoring them with a beautiful and peaceful memorial and teaching future generations about their lives through a powerful museum, was to leave our children and their children a city that was stronger and safer than ever before. And I think it's fair to say that together, everybody in this room and everybody in this city, we did that. We honored the memory of those we lost and the dreams of those who came before us by building a brighter future for those still to come. When historians look back on our 12 years in City Hall, they may look at all the Irish surnames who served in high posts and say, the Irish left their mark on New York government as profoundly in the early 21st century as they did in the early 20th century, and that was no small feat. So tonight, I raise my glass to you and thank you for all the support that you've given me over these years. And let me end the evening with a toast by wishing all of you and all America good luck with a traditional Gaelic toast. Mazel tov. Thank you.
Well done, Mike. Thank you. Well done. Well done. I'm not sure if this is the point of the evening where I pocket this or ask to give it back. I'm not quite sure what protocol is. Gentlemen, without further eloquence, this concludes our evening. We are adjourned until March 17 next year. Get home safely.